that idea of the mainstream media not valuing the loss of Black life is something that you brought up in your piece at The Nation, and I think is an extremely important point in all of this, because I think even though this case has become so big, you also hear people saying, well, Florida has fucked up laws, or Florida's full of crazy people, or George Zimmerman is obviously a white supremacist, but not actually zooming out from the specifics of the case. And also on top of that, then I've seen some of the trolls that you've gotten on Twitter, and people saying, well, what about black on black crime? And so I want to hear you talk about that and go more into that this important point that Trayvon is just one of many young black men, also black women, whose when the loss of their life is not valued by the media.
Yeah, I mean, Trayvon is emblematic of a system that is built on devaluing and dehumanizing Black life. And we see it in Detroit with Aiyana Jones, a 7-year-old that was shot and killed as the police raided her home because they were looking for a murder suspect who lived in the apartment above her. And the killer in her case, it went to a mistrial, a hung jury. We could see it, Rakia Boyd, whose family has had to sue the city of Chicago after a police officer shot her in the head and killed her after he thought, someone was reaching for a gun, and he accidentally shot Rakia Boyd because someone he thought was pulling a gun did not have a gun. But yeah, her life is taken, and no one is going to pay any penalty for it. And this happens over and over and over again. And I mean, for the media, it's a thing where, they don't cover the mundane unless you're talking about horse race politics, because there's no wow factor to it. There's no scandal factor to it. It's an everyday occurrence, and the belief that it simply is the way things work for Black people, and it's not news. It is not newsworthy for people. And the people that keep bringing up Black on Black violence, again, the people in those neighborhoods care very deeply. I care very deeply about Black people killing Black people, because that means Black people are dying in these streets. What happens is we have a system of justice that does not value those lives and does not seek to find those killers, does not seek to bring them to justice in a way that we would all like to see. It's not a matter of whether or not Black people care. It's the system that we still do not have an equal stake in, that we still do not have any control over, that does not value those lives.
And what about the I guess I'm not sure how to phrase this. What about punishment for somebody like George Zimmerman in the age of mass incarceration? One of the things that kind of came up when Molly and I were watching the trial together was how strange it was to sort of want the prosecution to put together a good case, because usually that's just not how I think I approach a defense, a criminal case. And you touched on this in your piece at The Nation too, but can you just sort of talk about the problem of mass incarceration and how we should or should not sort of want people to be punished for these crimes?
Yeah, rooting for the prosecution, I mean, it found us all in this, this place where it's the antithesis of our progressive politics. Like, we don't want more people locked behind bars. But I do think, what we have to do is figure out a system of justice that brings us to true justice. And, George Zimmerman languishing behind bars for 30 years or life wasn't going to be justice. And as much as I wanted him held accountable, I knew that what the punishment that he was going to receive wasn't going to solve the problem and the thing that killed Trayvon. And so what we have to address is, how our system of justice works, how this prison system works? And do we need prison to bring justice? And I don't think we need prison. What I think is we need a system wherein we have true rehabilitation. George Zimmerman's punishment should be that he has to understand blackness, that he has to understand why he killed Trayvon, that he should constantly be reminded of why he killed Trayvon and learn better and have to teach other people better. Like, that would be a more appropriate punishment in my mind, so that we're preventing these type of things from happening. Him being behind bars and, the horrible treatment that prisoners receive, where, he would go into solitary confinement and we all know what solitary confinement looks like and the psychological damage that does to someone. I don't believe that's a punishment that's a just punishment for anyone, because it doesn't move us forward as a society.
And I guess you were just touching on this, but I guess as a final question, and I don't even really know what my question is, other than, what now, what would be, what ideally. We saw amazing protests last night all around the country, and you were there. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit. And for progressives, for activists, and also just like what you said earlier of the idea that the jurors just don't. White jurors might not think about whiteness and bias and unconscious bias and that type of thing. And so, moving forward, what are some of the things that that journalists can do, that activists can do, so that we can try to capitalize on the energy that exists now in the wake of this trial?
Yeah, the rally turned march last night. I mean, that renewed some bit of faith that I have that, we're not going to let this moment slip. We're not going to let Trayvon die in vain. I was speaking with a fellow contributor to The Nation, Salome Shatila, who's an amazing black feminist writer, anti-sexual violence activist, and she was telling me the story of Nina Simone, because she's writing a book about Nina Simone. And after the bombings in Birmingham that killed the 4 little girls, Nina Simone went to her shed and she was trying to make a gun. And she was just trying to put together a gun because she said that she wanted to go out and shoot someone. Like, that's what she was feeling after that bombing. But her husband said to her, "But you're a musician." And that's when she wrote Mississippi Goddamn. And that's what we all have. We all have to do our Mississippi Goddamn. And what I mean by that is we all have to find the thing that we are capable of, what our gift is, and use it to the best of our abilities to bring about justice. And to bring about change in this world. And whatever that thing is, whether you tell jokes, whether you make art, whether you just run your mouth like me, like whatever that thing is, you just have to do it, and you have to do it as best you can. And as just with your heart in the right place, with your mind towards justice. And we have to find that collective energy to stay focused on this, to sustain a movement, because a moment is one thing, a movement is a completely different thing, and a movement changes this world.